For Global Business Update, Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Good morning, Michael.
Morning. I'm going to be brief because I've been asked to be. Australia and the rest of the Asia Pacific sort of very, very mixed this morning. Everybody's trying to digest the fact that the New Zealand central bank has put up its rates to the biggest amount in about 14 years to 4.75%, may go higher. As far as Asia Pacific generally is concerned, there's good news for those who have digital skills. They earn 65% more than their peers do around the world, and adds about $4.7 trillion to the total economy of Asia Pacific. These are skilled people, particularly as far as AI software and application development are concerned. Revenues of those kind of companies who employ those highly skilled workers, as far as investors concerned, up about 150%. As far as the US is concerned, as you know, a holiday on Monday. It's taking a long way for the long time for the market to get into gear again. The FOMC is the big one today. The minutes of that meeting will be available later on today. And the Dow was down 700 points yesterday. It seems to be veering all over the place depending on what its sort of expectations of interest rate rises are. I expect probably the Fed to remain relatively hawkish. Amazon employees around the world are pushing back on their employers, saying that they must return to the office. They're pushing back. They've started their own digital sort of email service within the company, and a lot of employees are saying, no, we prefer the shorter working week and the opportunity to work at home, if say so. Bank of America is estimating this morning that Meta, which includes Facebook and Instagram, could have 12 million paying customers by the beginning of 2024. That pushes their revenue up about $1.7 billion. And those who wish to pay for it pay $11 rather, 99 cents a month. Canada is reopening or broadening its trade relationship with Taiwan. It wants to, it's already doing about $5.82 billion worth of business, wants to do more. It's 13th at the moment on Canada's list, expecting to go higher. And it's the 5th largest partnership in Asia, but it wants to go higher still and work out the Indo-Asia area of the world for its exports. The European central banks shifting attention back to Europe now. Investors are really increasing their bets on a very much more hawkish European central bank that they've been used to. As you know, if you've been watching regularly, it's sort of lagged behind the rest of the central banks no longer. It expects interest rates 3.75% by September. That's a considerable increase on where they were in negative territory before, and expect them to be hawkish as the week goes on. UK and Rishi Sunak is eyeing maybe a 5% deal for public sector pay workers. The public sector was in fact, finances are actually in surplus for January. Nurses have called off their action. The RCN is going to meet with government officials today to see if they can push their way through this. As far as the trade deal is concerned, Sunak has still not convinced the Democratic Unionist Party, i.e. the loyalists of Northern Ireland, that what the trade deal he's proposing is actually a good idea for them. What they don't want to be governed by EU rules. They want to be governed as part of the United Kingdom, and we've been through this many times on this programme before. But basically, it's about Northern Ireland wanting to continue to be part of the UK and its trade, and therefore part of Brexit too, and have a softish border with the rest of the island of Ireland. It doesn't want a hard border. It may be that there'll be customs controls there. British Steel, for its part, is cutting 800 jobs. The Chinese owners recognise that British Steel is no longer competitive as far as the rest of the world's concerned, and it's expecting to cut about 800 jobs. Crypto, let's talk about Coinbase, and it's getting bigger revenues, more profits, but fewer people are actually using it, down from 8.3 million users, down from an expected 8.5 million expected. And finally, oil, very, very choppy trade still. The usual kind of things. Both Brent and WTI have lost about 1% yesterday. What they're worried about is the usual kind of things: is where's the growth coming from in China, and where is the global what is the global slowdown actually like, and is it taking effect yet? That is a rather shortened global view, but there it is. Good morning.
All right, real quickly, I'm really happy you hit the nail on it as regards Asia and workers getting more, especially in the tech sector. Recently, the UK was affected because some ministers from Western Australia, Perth, particularly, came to the UK and said they need 30,000 jobs and they're better paying jobs, and they want UK citizens to come to Australia. Is that not indicative of how things are drying up in Europe as regards jobs prospect?
I think, as far as digital tech's concerned, clearly the move is towards Asia, and I'm not including China in this because I'm not exactly sure where they stand on this. But as far as the rest of Asia is concerned, yes, certainly this apparently is what these figures are showing, and the message is clear, isn't it? If you've got digital skills, go and work there. That's what these figures are actually saying.
All right, well, thanks for the update on the pay issue in the United Kingdom, and Rishi Sunak saying that they're proposing or considering a 5% increase in wages. And also the update that the Royal College of Nursing are calling off the strike from next week. However, there's still contentions around this offer because it's below the 10.1% inflation rate recorded by the UK in January of this year. The nurses, the teachers are saying it's still not commensurate or perhaps fair based on inflation rates, and so they're still earning less. What lessons do you think Rishi Sunak can learn from perhaps his Labour counterparts in Wales and in Scotland who have offered a better pay deal to the nurses?
Well, I mean, all he's saying is this: the view from the government is, the public finances are slightly better than they thought they were. They've come in much better than expected. So there may be some kind of room for negotiation. But unfortunately, it's not just public sector workers that are going behind the rate of inflation as far as wage growth is concerned. It covers all industries as well. I think the key thing that his message will be, I mean, there may well be some kind of hard talking. I suspect there probably will be between the nurses' unions and government officials today. I'm sure that will happen. But I think also, but the message from government will still be, look, it's not going to be 10.1% because the actual rate of inflation, and if you're pegged to that, then you've got to take the ups with the downs, and that will undoubtedly fall. I mean, because price rises will drop out of the equation as they always do. That isn't to say, as I keep saying, that the cost of living is not too high. So I expect the two sides to be battling once again today. I mean, there may be a quick resolution. I doubt it very much indeed. This is just a calling off of strike action in an attempt to start discussions again. That's all we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I guess that's precisely the point, because this will be followed by intensive negotiations. And some of the papers are reporting 3.5%. The 5% is reported by Financial Times. But we'll see. I'm sure that it will be a lot of respite. Now that they say they have a £30 billion windfall from sources, unexpected sources, but majorly because of higher taxes. But I wanted to ask you about Amazon. About 140,000 of the workers, they've signed up to a petition, and they've created a channel called Slack. They say, look, they don't think they want to come back. And Andy Jas and the S-team, the leadership team in Amazon, they are saying, look, we want collaboration, we want to sustain company culture. Who is going to blink at the end of the day? Because it looks like many companies are moving away from COVID. Before now, Google, Apple, Starbucks, Disney, these are all companies that have been talking about people coming to work in office. In fact, they wouldn't have tried this with Elon Musk, who says in Twitter, in fact, if you have to bring your bed to the office, that would be welcome. But what do you think is likely to happen eventually?
I'm glad I'm not working for a company that says bring your bed to the office, quite honestly. I think Elon Musk is probably living on another planet if he thinks the workers are going to do that. The workers there, from what people who go into the company say, look absolutely exhausted, and they're looking over their shoulders because they don't know which way the company is going. I think the general move is to have fewer people in the office and maybe fewer offices. It's very interesting that in this country, of all countries, with a lower productivity than most of the developed nations around the rest of the world, an experimental 4-day week was brought in, and the productivity actually went up.
Oh, yes, increased.
workers felt healthier. Again, who knows? I think that at the end of the day, Amazon, the employers, will win, but they will have to modify their staff policies slightly, I'm sure.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. Now, for business updates across the African continent, Rotus Udiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Morning, Doctor. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Fai. Yeah, we get a big news in the power sector. The Afri-Exim Bank has taken a minority stake in Geregu Power PLC, and this is through their impact investment arm, which is FIDA. And essentially, this was announced, if we take a look, as the Fund for Export Development in Africa. As you know, the Afri-Exim Bank, Africa Export-Import Bank, is all about improving trade across Africa. It's all about improving industrialization and so on and so forth. So they got internal approval. December was when they announced it, and that internal approval with the board and everything else, and subject to, of course, due diligence and so on and so forth. As I said, the 5% stake is through FIDA, which is the Fund for Export Development in Africa. And FIDA has said that they are particularly focused on Africa's energy sector with respect to renewables, the energy transition, and so on and so forth. If you think about what power generation means to Africa, as you know, Femi Otedola, the billionaire who had his majority shares in Forte Oil, which became Ardova, he sold those, and he made the brave choice to jump into the power sector, which, as we know, is challenged, but here he is. Share acquisition was completed, was an off-market trade that was completed yesterday, and it's the first major foreign investment in an NGX company so far this year. And as you know, Geregu is the first electricity firm to be listed on the NGX. As far as FIDA, just to shed a little bit of more light on them, it's a major fund. Back in September, they announced a $670 million fund broken down into 4 pieces. You've got a $270 million direct equity fund, which will provide equity injections to companies that are looking to improve trade across Africa. They have a strategic initiatives fund, about $250 million of that pie, which is also going to more funding for more firms across the African continent. An Africa Credit Opportunities Fund, you know about the need for access to finance for a number of firms on the continent. And then a venture fund of $25 million. So all this, you think about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, you think about the mandate of Afri-Exim Bank and FIDA. So again, when you look at that major investment over in Geregu, and as far as the power sector is concerned. Now, the Naira note saga, there was a very deceiving notice that was put out claiming that the central bank had a meeting with the president. They decided to allow 500 Naira, 1,000 Naira notes to be legal tender. I mean, even members of our production team yesterday, family members sent it to them, and they thought it was real, right? So they debunked that, and then they put out another notice saying that they are going to prosecute the peddlers. But it even fooled the First Lady. She posted it on her Instagram. I don't think anything nefarious was behind it. She claims that okay, this shot doesn't show her Instagram account, but the shot actually shows her Instagram handle at the top of it where she actually posted it, but then she claims that her account was hacked. So we go to right, yeah, that's what she said. But she deleted it afterwards. Then
the account was hacked.
That's what she said. Said the account was hacked. Ride-hailing, Bolt said that they're going to invest about $500 million across the African continent, and before you know it, they've now announced, according to Tech Cabal, which is a tech publication, just so nobody knows, there's no cabal in technology, it's just Tech Cabal is the publication. But they said they cut about 24% of their staff. They got about, I think it's about 70 or 80 staff in Nigeria, and they cut about 18%, 17 of them. So 24% of that staff, they said they were going to make investments in Africa, but then unfortunately they've had to make some layoffs. And then
Sure, right?
No, this is just part of the Bolt stuff. And then finally in Kenya, JP Morgan has announced that they will be opening a Nairobi office. It's part of their drive across Eastern Africa. Of course, William Ruto jumped on this and said it's a big boost for Kenya. Now, of course, they have a regional office in Nigeria, in Lagos. They've got a regional office in South Africa, either Cape Town or Johannesburg. So again, this is their expansion across the continent.
Happy birthday, man!
Happy birthday!
Oh, happy birthday!
much.
It's your
Thank
birthday.
you. There will be implications.
There are serious implications. You know, Bimba delivered yesterday.
Yes,
She provided implications. So we're waiting.
Yes, sir.
Happy birthday,
Happy
man.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you so
We'll
much.
let you all
By
know.
this time next year,
Yes.
we'll have wife, we'll have
No,
children.
that was already happening. It's already in the pipeline. Oh,
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Roger.
Roger.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful
Thank you.
Wednesday.
Thank you.